I walked in on my fiancé cheating. Imagine my shock when I saw my father in bed with her. For some backstory, my wife Leah, 26 female, and I, 27 male, met in her freshman year of college. We were both dorming in the same building where we eventually met. We later found out we lived 2 towns away from each other, so whenever we went home, I let her drive with me. It only added like 20 minutes, so it was no big deal. After multiple trips and hanging out at school, we started to date. I have a pretty close-knit family, and so does she, so we told our families right away. I had met her family plenty of times when dropping her off, but it was nothing more than an introduction and exchanging pleasantries. Both of our families accepted each other with open arms and our relationship grew. I was a year ahead of her, so when I graduated, I went home where I was offered a good job with great pay. I visited her at school whenever I got the chance, and whenever she came home, we would make time for each other. After she graduated, she moved in with me as both of our jobs were in the city near where we grew up. Like me, she was offered a position at the company she works at now with great pay. After living together for about 3 years, I proposed, and we have been planning our wedding since. Now to the story. Looking back, there was plenty of things I overlooked, that I just wrote off thinking my father was just trying to welcome my ex into our family. Things like my father calling her all the time, and if I was around, they would just tell me they were talking about the upcoming family party or something along those lines. One time Leah was in the shower and her phone rang. I seen it was my dad, so I answered. When he realized it was me, he sounded both upset and surprised that I picked up. I then asked what's up, and he responded that he wanted to talk to Leah about my mother's birthday. That was in a week, and after a minute, we ended the call. Even typing this out now, I feel like such an idiot for not seeing it sooner. On the day I found out, it was like any other day. Leah had Thursdays off, so she made breakfast for both of us. When I set out for work, she gave me a kiss and told me to have a great day. During my drive to work, I realized I had forgotten some paperwork I would need for a meeting I had at 3 p.m. I shrugged it off and told myself I would just go home at lunch to get it. Leah texted me throughout the day talking about all the casual stuff a couple talks about, like what do you want for dinner, I did the laundry, do you want me to hang it up for you, blah blah blah. I didn't think it was necessary to text her that I was coming home for lunch, so when it came around, I just left work and went home. When I got home, I noticed a car that looked like my father's in our parking lot, but I didn't think anything of it and just parked and went into our building. When I opened the door, I was met with a scene out of a movie where a man comes home early and catches his spouse cheating. Such a cliché. There was a trail of clothes, both his and hers, leading to my bedroom, and the sound of faint noises echoed through my apartment. I stood at the door in utter shock. My brain was a mix of rage, sadness and disgust, but if you were a fly on my wall, you would see what looked like a statue. I just couldn't move. When I finally snapped to, not knowing how much time had passed, I took out my phone to record. I picked up all the clothes that were on the floor and threw them into the hall of the building. After, I filmed the walk to my bedroom. The door was open. I stood in the doorway filming for about a minute and then flipped on the lights. They both jumped at the sudden light and looked at me, and to my utter shock, it was my father in the bed with her. After the initial stun, my father noticed I was recording and started to panic, trying to find anything to cover himself and telling me to stop recording. He found a towel and wrapped it around himself and started to walk toward me. I told him if you don't want to get hurt, stop coming to me. He either didn't care or didn't hear me and reached for my phone. I hit him square in the jaw. His head bounced off the door and slumped to the ground. Leah shrieked. I aimed the camera at Leah and said, "Concerned about your buddy, but nothing to say to your fiancé?" My father woke up after about a minute and I told them I just needed to come pick something up for work, so I'm heading back now. If either of you pieces of crap are here when I get back, I'll send this video to everyone you know. I ended the video, looked at my dad, and said, "You're dead to me. You're no longer my father, but you might want to go home and talk to mom because I'll be talking to her very soon." I sat in my car for a while until one of the bosses at work called to ask where I was. I told her I was on my way back right now. When I got to her office to hand her the paperwork, I must have looked awful because she started asking what was wrong with me. I told her it was nothing and I'd be okay. I could see her scanning me up and down, and she noticed some blood on my collar and stood up, rushed to me, and said, "You're bleeding." I looked down and said it was my father's. She looked confused, so I pulled out my phone and showed her the video. She watched it in its entirety. She was introduced to Leah a few times but never my father. She sat there silent for a moment until it finally clicked that my fiancé was cheating on me, but not only was she cheating, it was with my father. She asked if there was anything she could do, suggesting I take some time off, but I told her I can't go back there right now. That I just need a minute and I'd be fine for the meeting, and I have another shirt in my office. The meeting went over fine. I put on a smile for everyone like nothing had happened. My boss came up to me after the meeting and asked how I could do that, but I just said I don't know and went to my office. I then came home, and I was alone for the first time in a very long time. Thank you for reading. I'm sorry I carried on so much, but it was therapeutic getting everything down. I just don't know what to do. I definitely need to get the heck out of this apartment. I just can't live here anymore, and there's no possible way I'm sleeping in that bed. I know not only do I have to go get checked out for STDs, but I think I broke something in my hand. I think my wife is having an affair with her best friend. If it weren't for the fact that she is a straight woman, I'd be certain that something is going on, but because she's never expressed to me that she likes women, I'm kind of on the fence. The biggest thing is just the amount of time they spend together. For example, my wife likes pottery, so we did a few classes together, but I wasn't really a fan, so her friend Erica started going with her instead. Erica even admitted to me that she doesn't really enjoy it either, but because my wife likes it so much she's just happy to attend. It's like Erica makes a point of showing me how well she knows her and all the things she does for her. She takes her to dinner, to art museums, to shows. They take our 3-year-old son with them too when it's child appropriate, and while I've never been told that I can't attend these things with them, I feel like a third will every time I do. When I work late, Erica will come over and cook dinner. Actually, in the first few months of our son's life, she came over all the time after my paternity leave ended and did all sorts of chores for her, so that my wife could have time with the baby without worrying about anything else. Now she'll randomly bring my wife flowers, or drop off books and toys for our son. When they're together, they're always so close. My wife has always been very tactical with her friends and family. She's big on hugs and hand holding, and it's not that I'm usually a jealous person, it's just the way they hug each other that makes me feel unsure. They hug like they're holding each other? You can just glance at it and see how much they care about one another. There have been times when Erica has given my wife tickets or a gift card to something for the two of us to do, so even then it just feels like something Erica is doing for her instead of a normal gift you'd give a couple. Or Erica will outright tell me in secret about a gift she thinks my wife will want, and even though my wife is always happy with it in the end, I feel like because I'm her husband, I shouldn't have her best friend in my ear suggesting things for anniversary or birthday presents. I can't just present all this to my wife and say, I think you're cheating on me and here's why, because I think it would make me look like a crappy husband who's jealous of how happy his wife's friend makes her. To be clear, I don't think it's ever escalated past an emotional affair, but I obviously don't want it to go past that. I just needed to get it off my chest because it's been in the back of my mind for a while now. Edit to add, my wife and I do spend time together, and I do organize activities for us to enjoy. I got her into hiking when we were dating, so now we go as a family when we have time. We attend dinners together, I get her flowers on special occasions, and yes, I am interested in doing things that make her happy. I also do have friends of my own, yes, but we don't act like this with each other, which is why I felt a bit unsure about the situation. Erica also likes women, and though I know that doesn't mean she's interested in my wife, I feel that many of the things they do together are things you'd do for a significant other and not just a friend.
My husband started randomly making me give consent on video before lovemaking. I don't understand why my husband is just now randomly doing this to me. I, 24, and my husband, 26, have been together for 11 years, married for 6, and through that time we have always had a great intimate life, but recently he came home from work and did his usual after-work routine, shower, rest a bit, then spend time with me and cook dinner together. We decided we were both in the mood and we went to our room to do the deed, but before anything he stopped me and he pulled out his phone and started recording. I was confused obviously, and he asked me this, "Do you consent to this?" And I was dumbfounded, he had never done that before, and I asked him why he was doing that. He said, "I just want to make sure I'm protected," and he laughed. He knows I have a history with SA from when I was a child, and I appreciate that he wants to get my consent, but it hurt to know that he thought I would use anything like that against him, and being out of nowhere it was all so confusing. I don't know what to do. This makes me feel like he doesn't trust me. We have 2 kids together, and after all of this, all the things I've told him, after all the times I was there for him, he still doesn't trust me. What should I do? I told my daughter that if she could find better, go find it, and now she's leaving. Me, 42 female, and my husband, 39 male, met 12 years ago through mutual friends. He had a daughter who at the time was 6 going on 7. Honestly, I loved her first. My husband was in the army and while deployed, CPS came and removed his daughter from her biological mom's home. She would have gone into foster care had his grandmother not stepped in. When my husband got home from deployment he divorced his ex, and due to the neglect suffered in his absence, she lost all parental rights and visitation. The kid was 4 at the time and luckily has no memory of any of it, outside of her going to stay at grandma's until daddy came home. I met her shortly after her 6th birthday when she came over for a play date with my kids, who are only 1 and 2 years younger than her, and honestly that was it. She was mine. It started with her being at my house a lot. She had dinner with us while he was working, she went to the park with us, she just was one of my kids. For Christmas that year she told him she wanted a mom, and that it needed to be me. By February we were dating. Within 6 months of that, we were living as a blended family, and I was the one who threw her 7th birthday party. Our kids got along like they'd always been siblings, and now the 3 of them, 18 female in question, 17 male, 16 female, are thick as thieves. We've since had another baby together, now 9 male, and the 6 of us are what I always dreamed my family would be. She has called me mom from the moment her dad and I tied the knot, and if you didn't specifically know, you'd never know I didn't birth her. She even resembles me. Her bio mother pops up every 5 years or so demanding to see her. My husband at first was completely opposed to the idea, but the kid was curious to know her and I can't blame her. We talked about it the first time, she was 8 or 9, and she wanted to see her and the rest of her bio mother's side of the family. In the time since she'd seen her bio mom had given birth to another baby, and mostly she just wanted to know her brother. At the time I remember her being afraid that meeting with her bio mother would hurt my feelings, but I'm not that insecure. I, and maybe wrongly so, encouraged the visit. The way I saw it and explained it was that she had a mother at home. If the old one flaked again, no big deal, I'd be here. She came home from that visit upset and told us she didn't want to see her bio mother anymore, but wanted to see her bio mother's mother. We arranged a visitation schedule with her bio grandma. After a few visits she began to come home upset but wouldn't talk about it, and eventually asked to not go anymore. We were happy to tell bio grandma to kick rocks. They showed up again when she was around 15, and again she went with them. She came home an anxious ball of energy. Not angry, not crying, just really upset. It took me a minute to get it out of her, but she then told us that when she was younger, her bio grandma had been using her visits to force her to see her biological mother, and that she had stopped going over there because of it. On this night, not only was she taken to an ambush where her bio mother was waiting, but her brother who she had gone to see wasn't there. Come to find out, CPS took him, terminated her rights, and adopted him out. No one had any idea where he was or if she'll ever see him again. Daughter was livid and told us she never wanted to see them again. We said cool and kicked her off the porch the next time she showed up. Our daughter of topic turned 18 and graduated high school within 30 days of each other. Her bio grandma sent her a card that said something along the lines of, "Your dad and stepmom can't tell you not to see me and your mom anymore. Please call us." She did end up calling her grandma and they had a heart-to-heart in which daughter was like, "Look, I have a mom and it's not your kid. I'll see you, but I won't see her." Grandma agreed and has been taking her to lunch once a month, and to her credit hasn't tried to get her to see her bio mother once. I'm not bothered they see each other, but I'm still very aware of what kind of people they are. Now, the trouble, we made her a deal that if she went to school she could live here rent-free, we'd help pay for tuition and whatever related expenses she had connected to that, food, clothing etc., but if she chose not to go to school we wanted her to work. For 6 months she has done nothing but go out with her friends, play video games, and basically just goof off. She even participated in a challenge she and her friends were doing to see who could go the longest without leaving the house, and she won. 2 weeks. She didn't leave the house for 14 days. We begged her to do something in the way of a job, anything. Even part-time. Entry-level retail work is super plentiful here, and I, having worked retail most of my adult life, even had enough pull to get her a couple of interviews. The first interview blew her off, which was sus, but we ignored it, and while she did go to the second one, she was told there was an error in her application and that she needed to fix it, she just needed to reapply. Once it was fixed the job was hers, and she just didn't reapply. Over Thanksgiving during an outing with friends, she was offered a volunteer position at a cat rescue cleaning cat boxes. She would get up every day, shower, get ready, walk by her own cat's dirty litter box, and then go do volunteer work 3 to 4 times a week. She was bragging about how well she was doing in her job at Thanksgiving, and my husband pointed out that she didn't have a job, she had a time killer. Jobs pay money. I guess that hurt her feelings because the same night she went in and called her bio grandma and told her, "God. You know. I don't even know what. That we were controlling and that she couldn't take it here anymore at the very least." They began to enact a plan to sneak her out of the house and move her to an entirely different state. We sat her down after the holiday and once again made a plea. I told her she was wasting herself, and that at the very least the place she was volunteering was hiring. Get a job there. She broke down and confessed the plan, and since then we have gotten, I don't know, a bunch of truth. It sucked. We found out that for years she's been telling people, especially on social media, that we're homophobic, and that she wanted to transition but we wouldn't let her because we were transphobes. I myself am bi and have more ex-girlfriends than my husband, not a flex, just for context, but some stuff started to make so much sense suddenly. Her friend's mother one time called me a nasty name, and I didn't understand why. Now I do. Her friends when they would come to our house would walk on eggshells around us, or even better, show up looking as queer as possible to shock us. One girl came over wearing wings, a tulle skirt, elf ears, and then proudly told us she identified as a member of the Fae and waited for us to clutch our pearls. We were like, oh, okay. So what dietary restrictions should I be aware of for dinner? We chalked it up to them being kids and just trying to figure out who they were, no big deal. It turns out they were trying to scare the straights. Aside from that, I found out that she has been telling people that I specifically am very frequently verbally abusive, that her dad and I promised her she could take a year off and figure herself out, but now I'm going back on that and she can't take it anymore. She had no plans to tell us she was moving out to start, but since we found out she has since moved up her move-out date twice, a thing she doesn't know I know, and will now be moving out at the end of this week. They have promised her all new bedroom furniture, a car, and all the friends she can meet in their excruciatingly small town. I grew up in a town like that. She has no idea what it's like to have Dairy Queen be the height of society on a Friday night or have to drive an hour to see a movie. I was? Well, just so hurt. I told her if she felt like she could find better, go find it. She apologized and told me that when she was telling people all of those things that she was a dumb kid doing dumb kid stuff, but the fake kid was at her 18th birthday. This happened recently. I pointed that out and she asked me to not hate her, and I can't. I really can't. But I'm so angry. She didn't have a wicked stepmother, she didn't feel like she had enough drama or credibility to pain, so she made me into one and made sure the fictional version of her parents were awful. The damage is done. Whoever has been hearing that about us now thinks that about us, and she pointed out that I shouldn't care because they're all younger than me. But I mean that friend's mom was rude. Super rude. So it does bother me. When I asked her if she was going to at least be home for Christmas, she said she didn't know, and I think that's when I realized just how deep it was getting for me. Honestly, I don't think I care if she comes home for it. I'm not sure I want her there. I can't help but wonder where else this has affected my life. My mother-in-law hates me so much that she and my husband have gone completely non-contact. Was that because the kid was telling her I was abusive? My younger daughter has told us she's staying out of it, but I can hear them argue about me. My older son isn't speaking to her. He said other things are starting to make sense, and now he wonders if she's been lying to people about him too. I haven't been a saint since this went down. I don't mean to come off like I'm trying to make myself one. I told her I was ashamed of her, that she had enough trauma in her life to be interesting without having to steal someone else's. In the heat of the moment I called her lazy and a liar, and I told her she was acting just like her bio mother, and she now won't speak to me. She left our group family chat. She won't tell me what she wants for Christmas, and now we can't be in the same room without me struggling not to take cheap shots, so if she's somewhere I just leave. And at the end of it, really, I'm scared about her going to live with this family. This grandma was super cool letting her go into foster care while her dad was deployed because she, and I quote, wasn't gonna raise someone else's 4-year-old. I have no idea if she was offered custody of the brother, but if she was, I doubt she agreed to take him. I'm afraid daughter will try to pull this crap there, and that they'll kick her out into the cold at 2 a.m., carless and alone, the next state over. I promise you I would run to get her, but it's still at minimum a 3-hour drive if I were to really hustle. None of that, not how much I still love her, not how much I ultimately don't want her to go, none of it will keep her safe. I don't know what to do, and I don't want to lose her. I told my husband I won't make love with him after his father passed away. Now he doesn't want anything to do with me. My husband and I have been married for 8 years and have a 4-year-old son. 3 weeks ago, my husband's father unexpectedly passed away. It was very shocking for the entire family, and we are all grieving. Because he passed away the week before Thanksgiving, the funeral was scheduled for this coming Friday. My husband is the oldest of 3 brothers, so he has taken on a lot of responsibility with helping plan the funeral, get his dad's estate in order, and helping his mom with pretty much everything she needs. His younger brothers help when and where they can, but they don't take initiative like my husband does. This has made my husband very stressed lately. I have done my best to be patient and understanding with him, but he just seems so angry all the time. It doesn't help that our relationship hasn't been the best for the past 6 months or so. We started couples therapy about 2 months ago, but our therapist has been on paternity leave for the past month, so we haven't been able to meet with him. One of the ways my husband likes to relieve stress is through lovemaking. But one of the biggest reasons we started couples therapy is because our intimate life has been basically non-existent. We've maybe made love 5 to 6 times this year. Due to some childhood trauma, not lovemaking and showing physical affection can be difficult for me. It's something I've always struggled with, and my husband has been understanding, but I know it's frustrating for him. This all came to a head the other day when he was clearly very stressed. He was short and snappy with me and our son. He ended up retreating to the basement. When I went down to talk with him, things got even worse. I tried to console him and figure out what was bothering him, but he just said he's sad and angry. I asked him if there was anything that would cheer him up, and he said yes, lovemaking. I told him that I don't really have an interest in lovemaking right now because I'm exhausted, and have been having headaches pretty much all the time from stress. He said that he just wants to feel something other than hurt and pain, and I told him that he's going to have to find a different release for that. He then said the meanest thing he's ever said to me. He said, "Then if you're not going to screw me, leave me alone. You always have an excuse to not make love, and I'm tired of being rejected all the time. If we're not going to make love, what the hell are we even doing?" I told him that was very mean and that I understand he's grieving, but we are all hurting right now and his wants and needs aren't more important than anyone else's. I told him I know he doesn't mean that, but I will give him some space. He said he absolutely means it. He said that his dad's death made him realize life is too short to stay in situations that don't work for you, and this clearly isn't working for him. I told him we should wait and talk with our couples therapist about this, and he said, "What's the point? Nothing is going to change. I'm sick of sugarcoating this so that I don't hurt your feelings." I ended up crying myself to sleep that night, and he's barely spoken to me since. Everything is a one-word answer. When I try to talk to him about how he's feeling, he always just says he's fine and he just wants to get through the funeral on Friday and relax this weekend. I was talking to a friend about this because I needed to vent. She told me that he's probably just grieving and doesn't really mean the things he said. But I'm worried that he's telling me the truth about how he feels and that he's really checked out of our marriage. I know he's grieving, but he's just been such a jerk and is so mean all the time now.
My girlfriend landed a role on a TV show. I watched the premiere with my family and now I completely regret it. A couple of months ago my girlfriend responded to an online ad for an upcoming TV show about Gen Z. The ad encouraged anyone between the ages of 18 to 25 to sign up for the show. If your submission was successful, which was the case with my girlfriend, you would be required to come to the studio and get interviewed on camera. That was it. Just you, the camera crew, and questions you had to answer about what it meant to be Gen Z. I was there to drop my girlfriend at the studio and then pick her up afterwards. I was not allowed to be present during the interview. A couple of hours later, I was back behind the wheel with my girlfriend, who seemed relieved that she was no longer in front of the camera. I was curious to know what her experience was like and what kind of questions were asked, etc. But my girlfriend said it was all a blur and that we would just have to wait and see when the show eventually aired. Cut to now. The show aired at the beginning of the month on one of the local streaming sites in my country. My girlfriend and I were unable to watch her episode together because we were physically too far apart, but I still made it an event by encouraging my mom and dad to watch it with me, which they were more than happy to do. I expected an entertaining and engaging discussion about all kinds of things affecting young people, and for the most part, I got exactly what I expected, which made me extremely proud of my girlfriend because most of the pressure was on her to be interesting and articulate, and she freaking killed it. That said, towards the end of the interview, my girlfriend was challenged to comment on random words that appeared on screen. Words young people were using or redefining like, riz, sus, drip, bag, body count, etc. One of the words was slut, which prompted my girlfriend to state that she believed there was positive affirmation and power in the word slut, before she decided to go a step further by saying she proudly considered herself a slut, because she's had many partners and she enjoyed sleeping with all of them. Needless to say, eye contact became challenging for me with my mom and dad present. I could sense the sudden tension in the room as my girlfriend unashamedly embraced her slutty self. The episode was less than 13 minutes long, but it ended up feeling a lot longer due to how uncomfortable it was to watch with my parents. For the rest of that evening I had to listen to my mom and dad remind me of what a decent girl my ex used to be, and how I let her get away, just when I thought they were finally warming up to my girlfriend.